Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video where today we're getting controversial. Yes, as you will have read by the title of this video, we are going to be comparing 5 of the biggest sims on the market right now. It's no secret, I've been quite critical of F1 24, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have been out there, kind of played the game for a bit, maybe have got bored of career mode and things like that, and want to expand your horizons, maybe challenge yourself even more with another title. So today, we're going to be comparing F1 24 with iRacing, Raceroom, Assetto Corsa with the VRC mod, and last but not least, of course, Automobilista 2 that we made a video on a couple of weeks ago. We're going to be going through kind of comparing the graphics, all of the available features, and obviously everything else. Of course, timestamps will be linked down below as well. I'm going to be trying to give all of the games a score roughly out of 10 that encompasses all of those features as well. So if that sounds good to you, like I said, yeah, make sure you drop a sub. We're trying to hit 140,000 subs here on the channel. Of course, obviously, this is just my opinions of these games. You will notice one quite obvious omission, which is R-Factor 2. Ultimately, I just find that game so unbeginner friendly at the moment that even I haven't bothered going in and trying to fine-tune my settings with that game once more. So yeah, let's first of all then kick this off with F1 24. Obviously, the clue's in the name. This is the official F1 game. For this test today, I think probably we're going to have to take all these cars to Spa, just because it's, you know, the track that I can basically guarantee that all of these sims are going to feature as well. It's going to be fairly quick fire, kind of talking through all my thoughts and feelings as well. But yeah, let me know down in the comments below kind of which sim you prefer the most, and obviously which one you're going to be playing with in the near future. And yeah, as always, a massive thank you to everybody for the continued support. Well, just for clarity then on today's video, we're not really studying the lap times or anything like that. We're just going through with default setups, just having a quick comparison between of all these games. And like I said, obviously the first one is going to be F1 24. Now, obviously you can pick the game up normally now on sale for kind of under £50. Obviously, if you get like the Ultimate Edition, you might have to pay a little bit more. Instantly, you know, I will try and talk about the positives of F1 24 because, you know, it's certainly got its drawbacks in kind of the handling physics and everything like that. But, you know, the career mode on it is still far better than you can get in any other racing title right now on the market. So obviously, if just career mode is your thing, then F1 24 is still generally the best sim on the market. Of course, you get all the official drivers, all the official teams and cars with their various nuances as well, which you can't really get with any other game on the market. And of course, you know, that official licensing does still go a long way with a few other bits and pieces. Obviously, all 24 tracks on the official calendar as well. Plus, Portugal still is featured inside these games. You get the F2 car as well now for free. Obviously, you know, the F2 2023 and the F2 2024 car. But that's pretty much it in the way of positives, of course. You know, the car feels fairly connected to the road. The physics still, I find, inside F1 24 are still too forgiving. It is probably a little bit too easy, I would say. But, you know, for a casual fan that just wants to get into the sport, I still think F1 24 does about enough. There's definitely a lot that it could do to improve itself. And, you know, we've kind of spoke about big changes that I'd like to see coming in the near future as well, obviously, to try and make it a bit more of the ultimate F1 game as well there. But, yeah, it still does a few things fairly well that obviously no other real sims on the market can really compete with. But, you know, those games are trying to target the more immersion and things like that. And obviously, as we get into those other titles as well, we will talk about all of the benefits that they each provide in their own way. Because I do think, you know, all of the games that we're going to go through today, you know, have some things that they are absolutely the best at, but other things that they are probably the worst at as well. So, you know, it is going to be your own personal preference and everything like that as well. Obviously, I've spent a lot of time with F1 24, so, you know, I kind of know how the game handles and everything like that. I kind of know where I can push the limits and where I can. And, of course, you know, this is still the main game that I play pretty regularly as well there. You know, I must say as well, obviously F1 24 Spa, the update to it, is a welcome change. I made a video, actually, on Mat 2 and 2 Sim Racing a few weeks ago, comparing iRacing's version of Spa and F1's as well, because obviously those two, I believe, and Automobilista 2. I'll double check it, obviously, when we get to that one. But I believe apparently that also has the updated version of Spa, and apparently I just never really noticed or saw it before we got in as well there. But F124, out of 10, I'm going to give it a 7 for the F1 experience. Like I've said, you know, career mode, casual play, you know, it is very, very easy to pick up and get into. Career mode can get quite repetitive. The online is not fantastic, but of course there is still, you know, a huge amount of leagues and things like that that you can jump in with as well there, if that's your cup of tea. The driving physics, you know, they're not horrendous, but they're also, yes, certainly not as in-depth as a lot of the other titles as well as we get into this video. So yeah, F124, we're going to give it, let's say, a 6.5 out of 10, I think. It gives room for other sims to try and do a better job. Well, next up then, we come here to the big daddy of racing simulators. Yes, it's time for iRacing, and I think this one is about to get a bit controversial. Now, I want to just preface this by saying, as a sim, I love this. iRacing is probably my favourite game to play right now. You know, it's so enjoyable. It really is, you know, so much fun. And I want to do more iRacing content, to be honest. I'd love to kind of become, you know, a bit more of an iRacing content creator. Obviously, if there was kind of more interest in it as well. Again, I do make quite a lot of videos over on Matsu2 Sim Racing, so go check it out. You know, it would be greatly, greatly appreciated if iRacing is your cup of tea. In terms of the F1 content, though, first of all, you only get the Mercedes F1 car, which, of course, you know, licensing and everything like that is a little bit of a shame. Second issue with that, it's the 2022 car. So it's a little bit outdated at this point, which is, again, a little bit of a shame. Now, by my count, you've got about 14 or 15 of the current F1 tracks inside the sim as well. Of course, there's a huge variety of other circuits as well in iRacing. But yeah, you can't quite do a full calendar or anything like that. And try as they might, the AI support isn't still that great inside iRacing either. So it's, you know, we give F1's AI quite a lot of stick. They're still leaps and bounds better than the ones you get on iRacing for the most part, which is a little bit of a shame still. But again, iRacing are continuing to develop them, trying to make them better, more interesting and things like that, so people can use the AI a little bit more as well then. Now, of course, that being said, though, iRacing isn't known for, you know, its offline racing against AI and things like that. It's known for its community and global matchmaking system that provide you with racing against various other people around the world. Now, the F1 car, the series for it, can kind of be split into two categories. You've got basically you've got a fixed setup and an open setup for each of these series. Now, there's one of them that runs like every other hour, that does like 35% races. Normally, if they've got the track that F1's racing at, then that week will be at that F1 track. But then, you know, obviously if they haven't got the track, then they try and sub it in with something similar enough that they can get away with as well there. Obviously, or you've got the 100% series. Now, that only runs a few times a week. I've done a few races of it, you know, over the last 3 years since, you know, the first Mercedes F1 car came to the sim. They're just not that popular. It's a real shame. You're lucky if you kind of get 2 splits for those big 100% Grand Prix. The other ones as well are probably even less popular than that. They're normally just 1 split, unless, you know, you are racing somewhere like Spa here. And it kind of just completely ruins it, you know, a lot, because it means that less and less people are inclined to drive the car. And it does kind of mean that because the skill level is so vast, because it is quite a challenge, that it does ultimately mean that you can't really get many good races with it. Now, you know, that kind of completely defeats the object of it being a good F1 sim if you can't really race F1 cars against other people, which is a little bit of a shame. Now, that being said, iRacing itself is fantastic, and if you've already got the sim, then I would highly recommend giving it a whirl. You know, if you want to race F1 cars, you know, do those 100% Grand Prix still. Occasionally, you can have some decent battles, but they are kind of few and far between. But that does make them all the better when you do get a decent race as well under your belt. But ultimately, and I know I'm going to get comments about it, the big killer for iRacing is always going to be the cost. If you wanted to buy, you know, a year's membership, just this car, and say just all of the F1 tracks, as I mentioned, F124 you can pick up for probably about £50-60. Just to do that on iRacing for a single year is going to cost you about 5 times that. It is not a cheap sim, of course. I've spoken many, many times before, you know, about the cost model and things like that. And iRacing does get cheaper. Obviously, the more stuff you've got, the more you can use it on different combos and things like that. And, you know, it can still be very, very good in that regard. But ultimately, if you're new to it and you haven't bought anything before, as an F1 simulator, I just can't really recommend iRacing. Obviously, you get a much better kind of ladder through the junior formulas as well. And Formula 4, for example, and Formula 3 are super popular inside the sim. But this is strictly an F1 sim comparison that we're doing today. iRacing just really doesn't live up to that. I think sensibly I can only give it a 5 out of 10 now. The car handling model, the physics, everything like that is brilliant. This thing is a joy to drive. But it's so expensive to get into. There are definitely better cost-effective alternatives to it. So let's head then into sim number 3, and we'll head over to Automobilista 2. And on to game number 3 then. This time around we're here in Automobilista 2. Now, I made a video on this game a couple of weeks ago, because, yeah, obviously if you watched that, you'll already know my thoughts and feelings about AMS2. I think as an F1 sim, it is absolutely fantastic. Obviously, you know, I went through my full thoughts and feelings in that video, but a bit more of an abridged version then ready for you guys today on this one. The physics, they're pretty much, at least in the open wheeler in this car, they feel pretty much as good as the Formula 1 car on iRacing. So, you know, they're tough, it's punishing, but really, really rewarding when you get it hooked up. The big thing as well with AMS2 is the sheer variety of Formula 1 cars as well. You know, it's, I went through on that video, it's basically got Formula 1 cars from pretty much every generation, which is absolutely mental. So obviously you've got these new ground effect cars, you've got the high downforce turbocharged V6s of the last generation, you've got the less downforce orientated V6s before then, you've got the V8s, the V10s, cars from the 90s, including the Williams, which has got a ridiculous level of detail to it. You've got 80s, 70s, there's just, it's an unbelievable amount of cars inside this game that are all, you know, as soon as you just buy the game, are instant to access as well. Now, the AI on AMS, they're better than iRacing's, they're not as good as F124's. Again, of course, you don't quite get the nuance of all of the different cars with their different aspects inside this game, but apparently as well there is a brilliant career mode download mod you can get, which not only allows you to kind of do an F1 career mode, but also actually allows you to do kind of like a full junior series as well. So you can start on this game all the way down in go-karts and get all the way to Formula 1, which is just absolutely mental as well. Now obviously it's got a few other little finer bits of detail that you won't have noticed from iRacing or F124. So obviously you've got that little bleep in my ear as well whenever the DRS is enabled inside this game. Graphics as well look really, really good. I have got one bone to pick though that I didn't actually realise when I started recording this video. Spa isn't free, so obviously you've got to buy the game, and then Spa is one of the DLC tracks to this title, so I believe it's £8, which is quite a lot of money for one track. It's not as bad as iRacing, but it does give you the modern version of Spa, I think the pre-2022 version of Spa, and I think a couple of historic versions as well. So, you know, it's certainly still very, very good value for money, and I certainly don't feel like I've missed out too much. AMS2, for those of you that don't know, can be picked up for £30 usually, but it's often on sale on Steam. Just wishlist it, you get an email when it's on sale. I would wait for the next sale unless, you know, you're desperate to get on it right now. That's, you know, save yourself a few pennies, but that certainly doesn't take away from the experience as well. Setup on this game, really, really easy to kind of try and fine-tune everything to a way you like it there. I love really trying to find the limits of grip on AMS2 as well. You can just hear there the car bottoming out as we make our way in towards the final few corners. And, well, as an out-of-the-box game, I think this one is, you know, I said in that video I did a couple of weeks ago, I think AMS2 might be the ultimate kind of F1 simulator right now. You know, just straight out of the box, bang for your buck, and everything like that. And that's going to get reflected in my scoring as well. I'm going to give AMS2 an 8.5 It's not perfect, of course. Again, every other game that is an F124 is going to lose out slightly in regards to, you know, just having that little bit of variety between the cars. The AI aren't as good as F124s, but pretty much everything else, I would say, is better. Let's head over then to... we'll go to Raceroom next. Well, next up then, we move over to Raceroom. Yes, this sim is... I wouldn't call it an ugly duckling, but it is certainly a little bit of a weirder one in terms of the sim racing space. Now, Raceroom kind of takes some interesting ideas from different sims and kind of tries to put their own twist on things. Sometimes that works wonderfully, other times not so much. Now, first of all, I got to get the elephant out of the room, just like I mentioned with iRacing. One of the big detractors of Raceroom is that you have to pay for basically everything inside the sim. Now, you do get a various bit of content for free. The actual game download as well is completely free. So you've kind of got to buy a lot of things inside the sim with what's called VRP points. Now, if you buy them through Steam, you're going to pay more money than you have to. Go through Raceroom's official shop online, and you can buy what's called VRP packs, and you save yourself about 15%. But ultimately, yeah, I'm just going to say it straight off the bat. Raceroom, for Formula 1 racing, it's not quite the one. Like I said, you know, it's much cheaper than iRacing in terms of obviously the fact you have to buy all the content for it. But it's, I've got to be honest, yeah, the Formula 1 car, it doesn't feel particularly fantastic. It kind of feels very twitchy, not particularly glued to the road either, which is a little bit of a shame. Now, just like iRacing, this is based on the 2022 car, as apparently I've completely missed my braking point there. No idea. Whoa, hello. It's clearly a bit of a handful, but I think that's more because it just feels slightly disconnected from the road more than anything else. And also I've noticed it's really odd, kind of a lower throttle. You've got no power whatsoever, and then all of it in one go. It feels almost like having an old school turbo trying to drive this thing as well there. But yeah, like I said, obviously it is a lot cheaper than iRacing. It's recently had a huge graphics overhaul, but I'll be honest, here in this car around this track right now, it's still, I would rank it probably about the same level as iRacing, definitely worse than AMS2 or F124 as well. Of course, there isn't really career mode at all inside this game. It does lack ultimately a lot of the F1 tracks as well. Now, obviously there are, you know, you obviously got Spa, you got Silverstone, a few of, you know, the really famous ones. But yeah, Raceroom kind of tries to go with some interesting things, some various kind of lesser known tracks, and kind of tries to appeal on the nostalgia and things like that as well. Now, yeah, if obviously you've already got Raceroom, and you know, you've bought a bit of content, or you really like the sim for various other reasons as well, you know, this car isn't, you know, it's not terrible or anything like that. But ultimately, yeah, if you're looking for just a sim to do Formula 1 racing in, I just don't think Raceroom's the one. It does some cars and things absolutely fantastically. I made a video on the DTM 1995 pack a couple of weeks ago. That is brilliant fun. But ultimately, yeah, this game's physics for open wheelers don't really work very well. It kind of suits tin tops, touring cars, that kind of thing, you know, with a bit more bumping and bashing as well. But yeah, something like this, it's not really Raceroom's wheelhouse, I'll be honest. It's, you know, like I said, it is fun, and I think if I spent a bit more time trying to fine-tune everything, then it would still be, you know, a very enjoyable experience as well. If I could actually figure out the brakes into the final chicane as well, would be quite nice. But I think ultimately, yeah, Raceroom, I don't think I can give it any more than the 3. Like I said, I don't want it to detract from the sim, because I do genuinely love it as a sim title, but for Formula 1 racing, Raceroom sadly just isn't the one. Let's head over then to our final sim. It's time for Assetto Corsa. While iRacing might be the most realistic sim, F124 might be the licensed sim, Automobilista 2 might be the best in terms of how much content is available in the game for free, and then you come to Assetto Corsa, which pretty much combines everything great about every sim ever. I mean, this game is 10 years old. We are months away from a new version of it, which I think is going to completely shake up the sim racing scene. And still we talk about this game, and if that doesn't immediately do it justice, I don't know what will. Now, we are on the just original in-game version of Spa-Francorchamps. That's included in the sim, but as mentioned and as featured in a few videos before, we are here with the VRC F1 car, which again, I mean, I'm really struggling with my braking points in this car as well. But if a car or a circuit exists, I can almost guarantee there's a mod for it inside Assetto Corsa as well. That's just how popular this game is. There's genuinely, I think, close to 1 million mods I would have thought for this game. And it's brilliant fun. It is the ultimate sim racing kind of playground, if you will. And I tell you what, it does a lot of things incredibly well as well. The physics on here feel very good. You know, I would say they feel pretty similar to Automobilista 2. Ultimately, slightly different, but in terms of kind of how realistic they are, it's definitely better than F124. Now, partly that is down to this mod. It is the most detailed F1 car of all time in a video game. The amount of precision in this game is just insanity. So much so that you can actually wear out the plank underneath the car. Who puts that in a game? Like, how on earth is that a thing? It is just absolutely incredible. Now, Assetto Corsa's AI as well, they're pretty good nowadays. And again, just like I mentioned for AMS2, there are mods for like career modes and things like that. Of course, you could do a full F1 season if you wanted to. You can get all the official liveries and things like that. You can tweak the AI difficulty to try and kind of build in performance balancing as well between each of the teams. So you'd make Max Verstappen or Lando, Norris kind of like the fastest ones, and then obviously you'd make I guess I can't even say Logan Sargent anymore, can I? But obviously some of the backmarker drivers to be slightly weaker as well to try and give you a more accurate depiction as well. I've actually done, a long time ago now, an F2 career mode inside this game as well. I believe we drove as Lando Norris back on 2018. In fact, it was so long ago, I don't even think the video is alive anymore on the channel. But even for something like that, this game did work really well as well there. Sounds are brilliant. Again, that's kind of more down to the mod you've got. You know, obviously this is an official track as well. I'm sure the updated Spa is in this game. I would have thought they're holding off, though, for an official release for obviously AMS Evo, which, like I said, should be coming out in the coming months as well. But ultimately, I think this has got to compare between this AMS and F124. And I think I'm going to give it the same score as I gave AMS2. It's just about those few little things. AMS2's car feels a little bit more kind of... or a little bit more on edge. It feels a little bit more difficult. But ultimately, yeah, I think, you know, with some modding capabilities, everything like that, you can probably turn AC into a better kind of F1 game as well there. So it's kind of dependent on how much work you want to do. If you just want to jump on, if you're not that confident with mods and things like that, go with Assetto Corsa, go with Automobilista 2. If you are confident with modding it and things like that, FYI, Assetto Corsa, really easy to mod on as well. Then I would say this game can probably pip it as well there. But there we go then. In terms of our overall rankings, I'm going to give AMS2 and AC a tie at the top, then F124, then iRacing, and then Raceroom. Thank you all so much for watching something a little bit different today. Like I said, if you enjoy more various sim racing related content, I will leave a link down in the description below to my sim racing channel as well. But yeah, that's going to do us for this one, and we'll be back very soon with more Formula 1 content.